Looks like we're live today. I started a little late today, but I feel fine with that. I know a lot of you guys sort of wait until I already got started. I got my whole setup here. It's looking solid. Oh, you can probably hear an echo right now. Let me fix that. All right. So, resolve that little issue. And I'm good to take questions and sort of get into it. The thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to happily rewatch the shuffle. The pitch situations. David says, "Howdy, watching from Canada." Hey, David. I'm glad that you can join me. Where in Canada? I have been to Canada in a few different locations, and I'm sort of curious. What do I got here? I always enjoy, by the way, whoever it is that says hi first. That always makes me happy. It's fun. Let's see. So my intent today is to Alejandro says hi there. My intent today is to rewatch the pitch situations video, and I feel like that's a fun one, and I want to provide my own commentary about almost like my own critique of the video, because it is from about 8 years ago, but it's very similar to how things are today still. I sort of enjoyed going through the shuffle video last time, and I want to do something like that again. As always, I do have my two brand logos up here. I've got True Poker Dealer in one corner of the screen, and I've got Live Poker Coaching in the other. Live Poker Coaching is a YouTube channel. It's a brand new YouTube channel. I have just released the first 3 official videos. It is myself and a poker pro, and we simulate out 2-5 no limit cash hands. First, you can see me struggling to play against him, and then at the end of each hand, he does a recap where he talks through every single decision. I cannot tell you how incredibly powerful creating this project with him has been for me, for my poker game. It has made an enormous difference, which is really fascinating, because I thought of myself as a really good poker player, and compared to a pro, I see how much I have to learn. And I'll be releasing a bunch of those videos on the Live Poker Coaching YouTube channel soon. Please do subscribe to that so that I could build that up and make it a really cool thing. David says, Hawkesbury? I don't know how to say it. Oh, Ontario. An hour between Montreal and Ottawa. Oh, that sounds like a pretty fun spot. Albeit cold, but that's just because I live in Florida. I think Canada is an amazing country, and I wish it was warmer. I feel like if the nice people in Canada were in a warmer climate, I would have already been a citizen. Let's see. Alejandro says, "Before you go any further, you look a bit delayed in the image." Ooh, that's good to know. Let's see. My hand seems okay here, but my head is delayed. Oh God, it's always something, you know. It's always something. So, let's see. What have I experienced in the past when I've tried to do this? I feel like the only way to do this is a reset. I'm going to try one time without resetting, or I'm going to delete the camera. No, I deleted the wrong one. Let's see. Not a problem. Alright. That's kind of interesting. I don't really like that though. Thank you for the heads up, by the way. I find that to be very kind to you. It's like telling someone they have a booger when you really don't want them to have to suffer through the embarrassment of that. Not everyone will do it, is my point, and I appreciate that. So which one do I do here? Video capture 3. Alright, so I gotta delete this. So I'll still be here, but you won't see me for a second. And it says eco. Or echo. Oh yeah, I did it again. Wow, interesting. So, I've been doing this too long to be making these mistakes still, but nonetheless, here I am making them, so it's all about fixing it, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm pulling this out, and I'll give this a chance to reconnect. Alright. Let's see if that's too high. No, it's alright. So, I'm going to try to add this now restarted camera back. Appreciate it again. And you guys can see my whole, oh, it's still delayed. Damn. All right. All right. The only way I'm able to fix this is to do a restart. So, oh, you're saying it's better now? It didn't seem better to me. Let me see. Oh, I guess it is better. I was thinking I'd have to restart my whole computer, but apparently not. All right, let me frame myself here. You guys are seeing how this works. And then I go in and I create a filter. I feel good showing you guys how this works because if you were here that day, it is people in the live stream that taught me how to do all this. So I'm going to add a chroma key and you should see the background disappear. All right, now I'll put myself back in the corner and it seems to be real time. All right, we're good. Let's see. All right, so thank you for the heads up on that. No, it's still a little bit delayed. Why? That's gonna drive me sort of crazy. It's like, it's okay is how it looks. So I'm just gonna move forward and we'll see how it goes. All right, David says, ideal home games, my friends like to play out of turn as they put the blind in. The player across the table raises it. Do they have to forfeit those chips if they don't want to call? My friends like to play out of turn as they put the blind in. The player across the table raises it. Do they have to forfeit those chips if they don't want to call? Alejandro says it's good now. I appreciate that. So I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. So let's do this. I am going to sort of create a representation of what I think you're saying. So let's say that you've got, let's see, how's this looking? Looks all right. Let's say that you have, we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in. And yeah, we'll go like this. All right. So let's say you have 7 players in. Now, I think what you're saying is when these players put the blinds in, let me shrink this down for myself. I think when these players put the blinds in, it sounds like you're saying that the player across the table is already making a bet. They like to play out of turn. The player across the table raises it. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're saying, but basically, let's say that this player raises to 10, but it's actually this player's turn. This money depends on, so as the person running the game, you would tell this player, hey, it's your turn to act. And if they say, well, what if this, what if this, what if this? You say, it's your turn to act, ignore this. It's your turn to act, just make an action. And then you go to this player, it's your turn to act, ignore this, it's your turn to act, just make an action, okay? What's gonna happen is there's a few different scenarios. Scenario 1, when the action gets around to this player, so remember something important here. They were faced with a $2 bet, a big blind in this case, in a 1-2 no limit game. They were faced with a $2 bet. When the action gets around to this player, if they're still faced with a $2 bet, meaning these players either called or folded, what that actually means is that this player's $10 has to stay in the pot. However, if the amount to call changes when these players take their turns, and each player's only got 1 card, so let me finish this here just to make it look more real. If the action They call it the action. It's not a good term because it's a very confusing term in the English language. But if the amount to call changes, meaning this player, when it's their turn, they say, you know what, I raised to 6. Once this $2 amount changes, this player can then take their bet back and do anything they want when it's their turn. Also, if it's a tournament that you're playing, I personally would suggest that you tell the players that they can't do that, and then after a while, I mean, it affects a lot when players do stuff like that. In casinos, players get penalties for things like this in excess. Action out of turn can sometimes be a penalty the first time they do it. Sometimes they give a warning or two before the person gets a penalty, but it does affect a lot. So the important thing here is anybody that puts money into the pot when it's not their turn, that money, when it only stays in the pot as is if the amount to call does not change as these other players take their turns. And these other players can pretty much do whatever they want. There is a substantial action component here. It does get a bit complicated. That stuff, if you want to get into all those details, I wouldn't have time to go over that here. However, that's in the course, the How to Deal Texas, the All Texas Hold'em Lessons course on my YouTube channel. So you could find all of that info there. Greg says, hey Mark, sorry I'm late. If everything's working properly today, let's escalate the stakes to 1-3. Sure, I can deal a hand of 1-3 with you. And Van Shark Mark says, hey Mark, thanks buddy, getting better every day. Excellent. David says, say under the gun raises, while the hijack just puts in the blind. So you're saying the hijack, so when you're saying puts in the blind, you mean these players call out a turn. Once somebody raises, anybody who called out a turn can take their money back. However, if somebody called the big blind out of turn and nobody raised, then they have to keep their money in. I would also discourage them from continuing to do that. All right, so let's see. I'm going to clean this up, and while I'm sort of answering the rest of these, I am going to play a single hand of 1-3 against Greg. Greg is in my All Texas Hold'em Lessons membership group, and as a result of that, I'm happy to play a nice little hand here with him of 1-3 no limit, and I'm going to give each of us, each stack's going to start with 300, I think. So let's do it like this. And yeah, well, you want to play 1-3, huh? So I gotta go cut that out there, and I'm just gonna take a bunch of these chips here. Let's see. Greg says, bring it on. Vincent says, hey Mark, not sure if you've covered this in a video, but can you help me figure out how to calculate a pot bet in Pot Limit Omaha? Thanks. I will respond to that in just a second. Let me get set up here. Let's say $300 is the max buy-in, as is the case in Encore Boston. Oh yeah, so I'm building up 300 stacks, $300 stacks here, and we're gonna play 6-handed, and get all this set up. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll put one here just to make it easy. And I need 2 more of these. Alright, so we'll get the rest of these chips out of the way. I don't want these blue chips on the table. Let's see. Alright, and this will be the dealer button right here. And we'll go like this. And I didn't get all the green ones. So we did this last week too, so we sort of have a format for this already. Alright, so we'll go this, let's see, just to make it easy. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Here we go. Alright. So let's see. So these 3 are Greg's. These 3 are mine. They are the same stacks as last time, but the buttons moved 1 seat. And Vincent, I'm going to sort of get to your question. It's a lot to answer. But I've got two possibilities for you to learn that. One of them is stronger. One of them is not quite as strong, but they're going to be what you want. So, all right. First, we're going to deal this hand, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about PLO and how you can learn that. So we're going to do 1-3 Texas Hold'em, and I'm dealing out the hands. And so these three are mine, and you get the two last positions, cutoff button and the small blind. So I'm going to go first here in this 1-3 hand. This is a fold for me. And this is a fold for me as well. So I'll show you your, hold on, let me just look at this one. Okay, this is one that you know, I might play. So there's your first hand. And it's this player's action. Here's the button hand. And here is your small blind hand. And so, yes, your cutoff button and small blind. Vincent said, no worries, I'm hanging out. Appreciate that. I can't see the cards. You should bring them a little closer. All right. I'll do this then. I'll flip the camera over like this and not look that direction. So I believe that the quality is good enough for you to be able to see that. I'll flip this over here too so you can see your button hand. And I'll flip over the small blind as well so you can see the small blind hand. And I went and looked back. All right. So cutoff folds. All right. I feel like YouTube has created less of a delay here, which is kind of nice. Check your Twitter. Boy, I do not go on Twitter a whole lot, but sure. Button folds and the small blind folds too. All right. I guess I got to deal one more. I had an ace 3 off on the big blind, so no big deal. We'll deal one more, and then no matter what happens, that will conclude today's dealing some hands. But that's pretty funny. Check my Twitter. I don't have access to my phone during the live stream, but I could probably check it on my iPad if I can find where I put that. My phone is one of the cameras for this, so it makes it difficult. All right, gotta go 3. All right. And just to like speed things up a little bit, I flipped over this hand. It's not your turn yet, but I flipped over this hand, and I flipped over this hand. All right, so now you saw what those were. Hopefully you can remember that. This hand is going to raise to 10. So now it's your turn over here. And so what are you doing over here, Greg? So to answer your question, Vincent, while Greg's deciding what he's doing, my hands all fold. I'm not running too hot. All right, I'm gonna look at these hands. I mean, look, you could have played the Queen 9. I totally get it. I had a King 10 and a 6-4 waiting, and I raised pre-flop with an Ace 4. So let's do this. Instead of, I'll take this with this hand over here, and now we're gonna leave these hands out. And that's weird. So anyway, I think I just disappeared for a second. I'm not sure, but I'm here now. So so I'm flipping all these over, and everyone's putting in $10. And I'm just going to deal out a pot and see who wins. So looking at this here, just running around, I see a pair of 4s here, a pair of 3s here, 2 pair of 10s and 3s, nut flush draw, pair of 4s here. So, yeah, I mean, there's some possibility for all of us. There's a full house. And this one's and new. So Greg, you did win this one. So there you go. Everything froze for a sec. All right. That is sort of strange, but there's not really much I can do about that. So, all right, Vincent. So, to answer your question, so there's two options that you have where you could probably get what you need. If you're looking to sort of understand it on like a decent level, I have definitely covered PLO in a Facebook live, which basically I've covered it in videos that are in the $4.99 a month membership on my YouTube channel. So if you wanted to join that, you'd be able to hunt around, and I think I did about a 30 to 40 minute stint in two separate videos where I sort of covered it. Greg says, I wouldn't play 10-3 in any position, suited or otherwise. I mean, I get it, but let's say that it was an unraised pot, right? And you were the big blind. But yeah, I get it. So Vincent, I definitely have covered it. If you're sort of looking to learn it a little bit, I've covered it in past live streams, and you can get access to all the previous live streams with the $4.99 a month tier. Or if you really, really want to like learn it, and you're looking to maybe deal somewhere, say that you're dealing somewhere that doesn't have it right now, and you're looking to deal somewhere that does have Pot Limit Omaha, and you need to know how to do it. I have the top tier with all the mixed games. I go over Pot Limit for more than 2 hours. It might even be, let me look at how long I actually do it for. And it's a very comprehensive lesson that will teach you exactly what you need to know. My intent with that group is to help people be able to deal the World Series of Poker. I'm not affiliated with them, but that is my intent with that, and I feel very confident in my teachings there in order to properly cover that. So let's see here. I just want to see how long that actual video is so that I can sort of let you know. Where would I do this? Window capture. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen for a sec so you can sort of see where these things are. Channel videos. Well, let's put this one over here. Channel videos. Nope. Yep. And put that on top of it all. Nope. So you can see, let's see, where is it? Mixed game. Pot Limit Omaha. Yeah, it's a 2.5. You can see it right here. It's this video. It's a 2.5 hour lesson. It's a part of the mixed game course, and we go over everything in that. It's you can sort of see right here. Alright, so I am back. Just to get a little sense of what it is. Like, I'm dealing out really complicated pot limit examples here. So the one that I'm showing you right now is $100 a month, just to be clear. The other one where you can kind of hunt around and gather it, I didn't go into it in any insane detail, but in previous live streams I've explained the basics of it. So if you're looking for the basics for $5 a month, you can absolutely find it. And if you're looking for like a real true lesson to learn Pot Limit Omaha very well, that would be the mixed game membership, which is the top membership tier. It does include everything else as well, but yeah, it's certainly not cheap, right? It's that tier. I mean, I do $100 a month because anyone who's already a dealer, $100 a month is not bad. It's very reasonable for them to be able to put themselves into a position to deal like the World Series or something like that. But let's see. I mean, what is your situation and what is it you're trying to learn it for? Just so I can sort of understand. Like, are you trying to get a job with it? Yeah, I can help direct you if you can answer that. Let's see. In the big blind, barring a raise, I would have just checked my option. Yes, I totally get it, Greg. I like how technical you are with that. Yeah, it's interesting. By the way, Greg, you had sort of said you wanted to see. I have released 3 live poker coaching videos now in sequence on the live poker coaching channel, and I have 6 more that are done that I have to. No, I have 8 more that are done that I have to create thumbnails and descriptions and all that stuff for in order to properly put them up. But my intent next week in the live session is going to be to sort of cover that. And that being said, without further ado here, well, no, I want to cover what Vincent's saying. I'm currently dealing, but only no limit hold'em. When it comes to PLO, I'm not very confident. Right. So for you, Vincent, I would recommend the $100 a month course. I know it's a lot, but you're going to get exactly what you need. You'll be able to deal Omaha, Limit Omaha, all those games, and Pot Limit Omaha is in there. Oh, it's for job security? Totally. Yeah, also, I mean, honestly, Vincent, because my mixed game course is relatively new, if you wanted to get that membership, again, I acknowledge it's expensive, but if you wanted to get that membership, I would be happy to like give you email support and stuff like that where, we could even do a little video review to make sure that you get it. And that's cool that you're in Texas. Yeah, Pot Limit Omaha is definitely sort of a thing. It's ironic, right? Omaha is big in Texas, but Texas Hold'em is the joke there, in case anyone was wondering. 4Leaf jumps in and says, how do you calculate the pot in PLO? So the thing that I was just explaining is, here, let me shut off this. No, I want to do this. I want to bring this over to. This should bring me up first, right? Yep. I just want to get this queued up. It's lesson 4, and I want to get it sort of queued up and ready. It's annoying that they make me watch the ads too, but I get it. People say they really like the version of YouTube with no ads. I've never had it before. So, what I'll do is I'm gonna give like a really brief explanation here, and then after I give the brief explanation of PLO, I'm gonna start critiquing this video. But for now, what am I doing? That. So the brief explanation for PLO. This just in, the poker room at Mandalay Bay is closed. Interesting. COVID related, I'm assuming, right? All right, so 4Leaf and Vincent, a brief explanation for how to calculate the pot. This is not how you calculate it as, like in practice as a dealer, but this is the true answer to the question, which I don't mind sharing this at all. So let's say that it's 5-5 PLO, and we'll say that there are, let's see, 1, 2, oh, whoops, I need 4 cards. This really kills me to do this, but I'm training and this is necessary in order to speed things up instead of pitching out all these cards. All right, so basically, at any given time, the pot is calculated by, they've turned it into something called, it says they're permanently closed at Mandalay Bay. They've turned it into something called Bet MGM Lounge. Interesting. So at any given time, the pot is a representation of, well, raising the pot is really what a person's doing. The pot is a representation of all the money that's already in the hand, plus the perceived amount if the player were to call. And then to calculate how much the person can raise at a maximum, you take all that amount and then you add it. So that's how much they can put on top of the call amount, basically. So just to show you, if this person calls 5 and this person calls 5, if this person wants to raise the maximum raise pot, what they would basically be doing is they would be putting in 5 to call, which you can't do this way in practice because then it's a string bet, but just so you can calculate it, they put the 5 in to call, and then they put an amount in that's equal to what every other player is. And then this would end up being the amount that they can raise. So they're raising by the pot amount, which the pot is considered everything that's already in there, and they do count the call in that. So this is sort of where it comes from. So, let's say instead what ends up happening is you have all these players make it to the flop. There's 30 in the pot. All right, you bring a flop, and this player wants to bet the pot. Well, it's going to be 0 to call plus everything that's already in there previously. So they're going to be able to bet 30 just like before, right? Or if this person bets 15, which is allowed, actually let's make it 20 to make it a slightly more round number. This person, if they were to raise, they would have to be able to put in, it's going to be this amount right here as the call, and then it's going to be this, and this, right? Because they have to be able to match it all. So if you think about matching the amounts that are in there, you're taking this amount, this amount, this amount, and the call amount, and that's the total bet that you as the dealer have to communicate. So this is 90, and there's a formula that's used that's three times the previous bet plus the trail that ends up working out to that. And so that's the general answer for how to calculate the pot when dealing PLO. There are a lot of nuanced situations that come up. That's why I'm not going to go into all that, and that's why I'll say you can find more of that info in the if someone wanted to join the lower tier with the previous live streams. If you hunt around, you can find it. I definitely go over it in at least 2 videos that I posted there. Or if you want to really learn how to do it so that you could deal somewhere proficiently, you would want to get join my channel on the mixed game membership level and just grind through the Omaha pot limit Omaha video. There's examples in the Big O version as well, and I mean you also can learn some other stuff. The trail is that's a good question. The trail is, so let's say this player bets 20, this player bets 20, this player or calls 20. The formula is 3 times this plus the trail, right? So plus the amounts in the trail and plus the pot. So the trail is just the previous bets. But I promise you, I'm giving you the formula, I'm giving you the info, I'm giving you just enough to hang yourself. Really, is the answer. There's more to it than that. There's situations that come up that, me saying 3 times the previous bet plus the trail plus the pot is not enough info for you to really get it, because there are situations where that becomes confusing or will lead you to confidently come up with the wrong number. But that is why I showed you the other version first. So later you can go back and watch this video if you don't remember exactly, which you probably do, but I showed you the formula for how to do it, so you can always check to see if you're right. Okay, so maybe you can take this and figure it out from that. But I caution you, if you're trying to deal pot limit Omaha at home or for fun or figure it out, by all means you can try to do that. But it's there's a few pieces to that are pretty important, that it really takes a full demo in order to understand it. That's why that video is 2.5 hours long. Vincent sent me a $2 super chat. Super appreciate that. It's really kind to you. And you said, I appreciate the brief walkthrough, man. Thanks. You're welcome. Very kind. I have thought about including super chat options. I was thinking, what did I have listed there? I was thinking different specific prices that I would use if anybody wanted a live lesson, during a live stream. I'm curious what you guys think, if you think this is a good idea or not, since we're talking about it. I just have to pull up my board here. So the things that I were considering were, I was considering $5 to play heads up if you don't have a membership, or you could just purchase a membership because you get all access to all this stuff in the live stream. I was thinking 10 minutes for a 10-minute demo for anything you want, or $10 for a 10-minute demo for anything you want. I was thinking something like like $900 for me to visit your poker room. If someone wanted to be crazy and leave me a super chat, I would go visit their poker room if they're working there. Yeah, I was just thinking fun stuff like that. You know, COVID makes it a little bit tough, but it's like, what the heck, you know? Vincent said, us dealers got to take care of each other. Yeah, for sure. Super appreciate that sentiment as well. Dealers going to play poker really do help the industry a lot too, because they certainly help people take care of each other. But yeah, and also I appreciate all the support that you guys have. Four Leaf says, thank you for the help. You're welcome, man. I appreciate all the help that you guys have given me in making this live stream good. Like, you can still see it's going like this. I don't want it to do that where it disappears. Now it's actually pulling me. My humor. So, all right, let's jump into the poker pitch situations video from back in the day. Once this pandemic blows over, why don't you come to Mohegan Sun, Connecticut? Sometimes they have great action there. Perhaps. I mean, that's my old stomping ground to a degree. I used to go to Foxwoods when Mohegan wasn't allowed to have poker, and I played there a couple times since then. But it's not a bad suggestion. I'm definitely considering doing like the touring stuff as well. You know what I want to do here? Here's what I want to do. I want to make this look cleaner. Put this like this, because I don't need all the rest of this stuff, right? Let's see, there we go. Now it's starting to look clean. So we're gonna play this, and I'm gonna do some commentary on it. We're gonna see if this young kid back then knew what he was talking about, right? Which, I mean, honestly, this video is pretty solid. And then there's some funny things that I can talk about too from there. All right, here we go. Let me go like that, so I'm sort of out of the way. Vincent says, you definitely have to come down to Houston sometime. We don't take rake, only charge hourly. My good friend is the GM at the TCH property in Dallas that's opening. I have cousins that are in Houston. I've been to Houston a handful of times. I actually like it down there. I'm curious which room you're at, but I mean, Houston's on the table, but you know, you guys are saying this the way you're saying it. The thing that I said was I would come if someone wanted to super chat me. I would definitely come, and I mean, honestly, I was thinking of it more from the standpoint of like helping the room, right? Like, I'm thinking about it like, I just want to make this look cleaner. I'm thinking about it like if a room wanted me to come down and I could do some kind of an appearance and stuff like that. They say everything's bigger in Texas, including poker bets. Is that true? I would say tips are not bigger in Texas because the current regulations make it so you have to have separate chips for tipping. But a lot of things are definitely bigger in Texas from what I understand. I'm curious what Vincent says. I'm a dealer at the Hangar. I don't know how to say that. Hangar in Humble, Texas, and yes, the action is unmatched. All right, well, I'll take your word for it. I have certainly watched the TCH live stream in Austin. Vincent said tips are low. Agreed. Yeah, that's going to change at some point. Whenever they regulate it better, it's going to get a lot better than that. But that's the truth for now. So let's start this. I'm going to bring this back to the beginning, and I'll get the volume up nice for you. And here we go. Hello, I'm Marc and welcome to TruePokerDealer.com. In this video, we'll be going over pitch situations. If you missed the pitch mechanics video where you learned how to actually pitch, I highly recommend you watch that first. This one's going to go over what happens when things go wrong. I just gotta real quick jack this volume up a little bit. So this is going over what happens during the pitch when things go wrong, is what he said. So I'll start out by cutting the deck like you might normally do and putting this deck in your hand. And here we go. You're pitching to the first couple of seats. Now, As you pitch these cards out, it's very important that you verify to make sure that the correct player secures the correct card. That couldn't be more important because there are a lot of times where a perfectly good pitch will get snatched up by someone that's either not paying attention or sometimes, unfortunately, doesn't like the card that they were dealt the first time around or whatever it is. So verify, verify, verify. So this point right off the bat is super important. I also go over this again in the main course because I think repetition here is really valuable. And something that I notice is there are some dealers that they sort of approach the game from this the job rather they approach the job from this like I do things and if something goes wrong it goes wrong mentality, and that is not good. So part of what I'm saying in this is it is your job to know with 100% certainty that each card has gone to the correct place. And if you pitch the cards out and then you look back and you don't know what happened and people are saying like I've got 3, I've got 1, it's actually something that is on you as the dealer. You have now made a mistake if you don't know what happened. You are supposed to be super aware from the moment that you release a card up until the moment that a player collects it. And that's sort of what I'm trying to say here. I'm instilling that importance and that responsibility on the dealer because that is really a dealer thing. It's not okay for you to just like look back and be like, oh, I don't know what happened. Like if that's the case, it's the case. But that is something that like a good supervisor or a good staff is going to tell you that's not okay. You need to fix that. Don't let it happen again if you can avoid it, type of thing. Everyone understands that people make mistakes, but still. Greg says, what I usually do is put my hand on the table, thus giving the dealer a target to pitch to. That way I know I'm securing the correct card and the dealer knows I got the card I'm supposed to have. Yes, dealers do appreciate when a player actively seeks out, or dealers definitely appreciate it when a player puts that effort in to receive the card properly. Man, I miss this table. I'm looking at this True Poker Dealer table. I absolutely love this table. And what is going on with it? It's like disappearing for a split second here. It's weird. I still have this table. It's just not at my home. It's at my friend's house. And all right. You can use your peripheral vision if you need to. The next thing that might happen, you pitch a card. The player's stacks over there. The player's card lands over here. Please slide it to them. It's a courtesy and part of your job. Deliver the card to the player that it's supposed to be delivered to. Now, that includes if you pitch it in the wrong location, you go fish it over and slide it to the correct person as well. Four Leaf says, what happened to the table? You're not the only one who misses that table. I'd love to play at it. I appreciate that. So originally when I created True Poker Dealer, my very good friend Jerry, who I met at the first room that I was a full-time supervisor at and later a shift manager, he and I became friends. He was a retired professional photographer doing work with like all these amazing athletes and famous people like Michael Jordan, Jack Nicklaus, the golfer, Nicholson, I guess. Whichever one, someone will tell me in the comments. And these types of people were his clients, and it was really cool when he said he was down to do this whole project at his house. So we put the table at his house. He had these beautiful. It's still there. These beautiful like 12-foot high ceilings, and it's meant for this type of stuff. And ever since then, the table has been a centerpiece at his house, and I think of it as his now, even though it's like True Poker Dealer. Like True Poker Dealer is part his too, but it's a really meaningful thing to keep it there. And before COVID, I would still go to have dinner at his place at least once a month, if not more, and we play on the table with the old chip set and all that stuff. But I don't want to burden him with me going there to record all the time anymore, because it is a lot to like leave all this stuff set up. So that's why I sort of got myself this original temporary table and set up for where I am right now, and I am going to upgrade again, but I think I'm just going to leave that table with him. I may end up buying a table or getting a table somehow with a deal with Chanman Poker Tables, who I had a conversation with him today. ChanmanPokerTables.com he's a really, really good guy, and he cares a lot about what he does and his products and all that stuff. And so he and I started talking about a setup where I offer you guys discounts through him. And the reason why I'm talking to him is I really honestly am super picky and I hate a lot of stuff that's out there. And I'm just looking for somebody that is in the world of poker products that has stuff that I really want to endorse and support. And so far, there's 2 felt options that seem really good, and he's going to be sending me. I already did a video of them, but I didn't like the video. The felt that he sent me was like a misprint. That's why he let me test it out. But he's going to send me official felts with real logos on them and all this stuff for me to do a review. So I've sort of already done the review. It was a positive review. Because it was a positive review, we're going to redo it. But that'll come at some point soon. But that's what happened to that table. That's my little tangent. And let's get back to this video.
Now, if you ever see someone do this, you'll know that they haven't watched my video or don't care. That's called the helicopter. I recommend that you do not helicopter the cards. You want your pitch to be down. The reason you don't want a helicopter is there's a few of them. One is that it has a higher chance of being exposed up here, especially if it wobbles a little bit. Another thing is as it's coming down, it's got a higher chance of being flipped up by hitting something or someone getting their hand in there and hitting it like that. In other words, don't helicopter whenever possible. So,
absolutely true. The helicoptering is. I've had people tell me that's not called helicoptering. It's called this. It's called this. It's like, okay, call it whatever you want. Don't do it, right? Like when you're pitching cards, you don't want to be throwing them way up in the air like this. You know, you don't want to be here. Let's show right here. When you're pitching cards, keep them down. Don't throw them up like that because they will expose. I didn't necessarily go over this, but there are some dealers that also angle the deck sideways. Some people even teach that. They say that it creates more efficient delivery, but the people on this side of the table, if the cards are like this, the people on this side of the table can see all the cards coming off. But yeah, keep the deck parallel to the felt and keep the cards down. And what not to distract you too much, but which brands of cards you use, Vincent says. These are Copags. I really like Copags for home and personal use. Let me fix this light a little bit and get that shadow out of there. I really like Copags for home and personal use. You can get them on Amazon. I have a link to it on truepokerdealer.com, training tools. It just, these cards have come through so hard, and they last. The coating lasts a lot longer, even for home games. You can use them for a lot longer than I find other brands of cards. In casinos, now, casino vendors and suppliers are only going to sell to casinos. So part of why I'm recommending Copags is because I'm talking about for people at home trying to practice all that stuff. These do the job great. In casinos, there's plenty of other brands that are good. Chems are good. You can get Chems at home too, but Gemicos are good. I mean, nowadays a lot of good brands, but I don't see any reason not to just go with Copags if you're at home because they're just that good. What industry standard? I prefer Copags. I am assuming that I said something about industry standard that I forget what I said because I'm just reading this now. Maybe you're asking what's the industry standard for. Maybe you're asking what the industry standard is for cards. Honestly, there's so many different cards that are out there. Cards fundamentally are all the same. It's just the coatings on them are different. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of good brands. Copags are certainly good, but I don't believe I've ever been in a room that dealt with Copags in a poker room. Right? What is the industry standard? So in casinos, there's a bunch of different types. It's Gemico, it's Chems, it's Copags. There's probably more that I'm forgetting because I've only worked at so many places. The poker room that I was at the longest had Gemicos. I don't even remember what the Seminoles used when I was dealing there. They were just good cards. Is the way that I would think about it. I know that the reason that we switched to Gemicos at a room in Miami that I helped open, that I was at for a handful of years, was because players, when they look at the cards, let me turn this off for a second. When they look at their hands, a lot of the time, a player will like dig their thumbnail into it or dig their fingernail and like flip the cards up. And it's really important to get cards in a casino that they don't show the markings when people do that. And the Gemicos were really good about avoiding that when we got the super thick ones. but I mean, I haven't really ran into that with Copags. It's possible, honestly. Also, the shuffle machines, when they snag the card and shuffle them out, they used to get those same markings on them sometimes too, and then you just got to get rid of all of them. But I'm going to be honest, it's been about 4 years since I worked in a poker room, and I can't say with certainty what they're using today in the industry. I just know that, well, some of them, they use all the different brands. I just don't know which version of them is what I'm trying to say. Because each brand that you get different like options for the thickness of the coating and all that type of stuff. Greg says, I've been practicing with Copags obtained from guess where, and then Greg said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I used Gemico. So I don't know. Based on what you're saying, I'm guessing somehow you got them from Mohegan Sun maybe, but I'm curious what your answer is. I do want to go up. Van Shark said, I'd like to work at THC. If you want to get in contact with, well, I don't know where you're at. Oh, you said, no, I do. You said earlier. Hold on. Did you say earlier? 5 thumbs up. Getting better every day. No, I don't see you saying where you're at. But if you want to work at TCH, I might have said the wrong thing there. If you want to work at TCH, I can get you in contact with Victor, who is the general manager at Dallas, and I don't believe they're open yet, and they will be opening soon, and they will be needing to hire a lot of dealers. So feel free to, I'm going to put my email in here now. Anyone that is interested in going to Dallas, he has been looking for dealers for a while. If you want to set up an audition with me or something like that, I mean, I do charge for them, but we could do a video audition and I could show it to the general manager there, and he could decide whether or not to hire you just off of that. So feel free to let me know. I mean, I sort of undersell my ability to get people jobs that go through my course or through me for something or other, but he's been sending people to the True Poker Dealer course, and that's where some people have been signing up from for the All Texas Hold'em course, because he knows I'm the one that trained him. I didn't train him originally, but I helped him get from the point where he was almost a dealer to being a dealer, and then he just he's been at it for years now, and he's really excelled. Alaska now, currently building a house in Caddy. Oh, interesting. So how would you work for TCH from Alaska? I imagine that you're talking about maybe sometime in the future, or it's something that would be fun for you. But that's cool though. I haven't not ever been out there. Wait, you said Caddy. I don't actually know what Caddy is. Let me look that up. I like looking things up and knowing Caddy. The stuff that I'm Caddy residents near Anchorage, maybe? No. 2 Caddy area residents witness spectacular glacial bridge collapse in Alaska. It's just an Eyewitness News headline. I got you though. So that's the area of Alaska that you're in. Vincent said, big rooms near Caddy vans. You don't need to work at TCH. Caddy is a small town outside of Houston. Oh, I see. So you're going to be going down to Houston. Awesome. For some reason, I was thinking you were saying you were still in Alaska, but that makes a lot of sense. I like how Vincent is sort of aware that TCH gets a certain amount of attention, and it's not the only room there, and that's totally true. There's other legit rooms out there. I like what you did there. It was smooth. Cool. Well, I don't really have any connections to TCH in Houston other than maybe through Dallas, but right, no, Caddy, Texas. Yeah. Let me see. Vincent helped me understand that. I appreciate that insight. Well, I mean, look, if you're building a house there, you're certainly not going to anywhere outside of there, but I'm pretty sure TCH is endorsed by Brad Owen and Andrew Neem. They do have a big stream, but tips suck. So I know that Brad Owen has been on their live stream before. I don't know that it's endorsed by him. I've seen there's the person who does the commentary on the live stream. I think is someone that it might be the Crush Live Poker person from YouTube, but they definitely have affiliations with some poker pros that do coaching for sure. And yeah, I don't know about Andrew Neem, but well, there's a lot of possibilities out there. I don't need to speculate, but I do want to go back to the pitch situations video and keep going on it. So let's see.
So then we pitch the next card over here, and you might be looking at the 9 seat right over here with an obstacle in the way. It could be chips like this. This person's done.
This is I made this video when 10-handed was a lot more common.
Pretty well for this game. Might be someone's hands like this, someone shuffling their chips over here. You don't know what they're going to be doing, but you know that they're in the way. If you don't feel comfortable or really can't ask them to keep it back a little bit for you, then you're going to need to do something like this, where you come out here and pitch the card. Please avoid the instinct to helicopter over. Helicoptering over is an even greater risk when it goes over something, of nicking one of these and flipping over, someone lifting their hand up or getting in the way of it. So please, both arms out like this, twist yourself in the chair, swivel chair a little bit, and just pitch the card out. And you see that time, it bounced over there. I would have stopped the pitch and I would have asked that player to please grab that card.
Yeah, you can't always reach all the way over there, so sometimes you just communicate. Say, hey, grab that card for me. It's being preventative. You can stop if you need to in order to do that. I think it's interesting seeing that, like, remembering that 10-handed used to be really a big part of the game, and it's not anymore. And I mean, it's still around in some places, but it makes so much more sense for everybody for it to be 9-handed. The players don't have to wait as long. The casino gets more hands out. I feel like the only situation that 10-handed would ever make more sense would maybe be in a time rate game where players wanted it to be 10-handed, to maybe include a player that wouldn't otherwise play in the game or something like that. It's just 9-handed ends up being so much better nowadays. But let's see, I got some comments here. Vincent says at Van Shark Tank, and we're all gonna listen to this. Check out Free Rolls Poker in Caddy. That sounds cool. Is it Caddy or Katie? Four Leaf says, so does the $100 join include everything? It does. Whenever you get a higher tier membership, you get access to everything below it. Absolutely. Van Shark Tank says, Bart thanks. Bart thanks. Interesting. 10-handed is the standard at Mohegan Sun. That's interesting that Mohegan Sun is still 10-handed. I wonder if Foxwoods is still 10-handed. I know they used to be 10-handed when I would go there in the past. It's just there is one other thing. If you're a poker room that has limited space for whatever reason, you know, I could see you doing 10-handed so you could fit more players in the room. Or if you're a poker room in Texas, I could see the rooms in Texas choosing to go 10-handed because they don't make money off of the rake. They charge per hour per person that's playing. So you can make more money as a poker room by playing 10-handed in Texas. So, you know, I should think that through a little bit before. Yeah, Vincent said 10-handed is also the standard in Houston. I reasoned that out just before you said that. Totally makes sense because if you're charging people per hour in Texas, which is the only way they're allowed to profit off of poker, then you would want to fit 10 players at the table and you just get that benefit. So that totally makes sense. But in any rake game, 9-handed is going to end up making more sense. The reason I said the standard is gone from 10 to 9, I'm literally basing that off of the TDA. The TDA now is recommending 9-handed tournament tables. It's just completely switched to 9-handed, and in tournament it's a disadvantage for the casinos to operate that way, because if you only have 9 people per table per tournament, you need more dealers, which costs you more money to run the tournament, and they still made that change going down from 10 to 9. But yeah, there are definitely cases such as in Texas where it makes more sense to do 10. Mohegan Sun, if they're taking a rake, they're just costing themselves money, in my opinion, unless their opinion is the floor space is more valuable for other things. So they'd rather have anyone that wants to play poker let them come in and play on less floor space. So there's an argument to be made there, right? What do I mean by that? So if you have, say you have 30 tables in your poker room and you have 300 players playing on 30 tables, that means that you can fit all 300 players that are going to play poker one way or another. They came to play poker, they're going to play poker. You can fit all 300 players on 30 tables. If you do 9-handed, those 300 players would take up... It's an interesting little casino mentality problem where you sort of see how this works for casinos. So if you do 300 players, it would take 34 tables, 33.33, which you can't do. So 34 players at Mohegan Sun, the same number of people that are going to play poker. So yeah, you'd be making more money per table, but you'd also have to take up the floor space from an additional 4 tables for your poker room. And that floor space, according to casino theory, which I'm making up the terminology, but it's a thing. They think about how much each square foot makes them depending on what they put there. So they could use that extra space to put slot machines and therefore make extra money. Maybe that's why they went with that decision. I'm not sure. It is certainly an interesting dynamic. Vincent said, I think it's ironic how Texas Hold'em is not legal in Texas. Well, I don't think that's the case anymore. It's sort of legal now, right? So you're right. It's not exactly legal, but it is super funny how that's been like that for a long time. I have heard that joke so frequently over the years, and Texas has been like rolling its eyes at itself in terms of not being allowed to offer its own version of poker that's become so popular. Greg says the poker room at Mohegan Sun has 33 tables. It also has a bar, some video table games, and a Johnny Rockets. The decor there is wonderful. That's awesome, and I'm curious how often they're full. But yeah, I do sort of feel like at a huge casino like that, where they could use the space differently, they can fit more people in that are going to play poker on a given day. So I wonder how the math works out. I mean, slot machines and table games are just worth so much more to a casino. There's no question about that. Let's jump back to the video. All right. So I'm about to deal the last card to seat 10.
You have to stop the pitch to make sure it's correct. Next thing that happens, you give a card over here, and you give a card over here. Now say that this player over here did a similar thing, and they've got either their arms way out or their chips out here, and pretend that there's something in the way over here so I can't just smoothly pitch through there. By the way, you never want to pitch from behind the rail. In this case, it's a little bit tough to get your hand like this into a pitching position because it's your right hand, whereas over here you can kind of go back like this. So you might have to come up with something creative. One thing you can do is you can push the card, grab it in the middle, and pitch it sideways like that. I've seen a dealer put the card here and slide it over. I mean, it's a little bit less professional, but there are things that you can do within the rules of poker. Get a little bit creative when you need to, but try not to go over obstacles.
So specifically, I do see dealers all the time trying to go over obstacles. Not dealers that I've trained, but like when I go to play poker, it's like they're literally here. Let me cut this out. They're literally like, if there's a chip stack here and there's a player's hands right here too, so you can see this. There's a chip stack here and a player's hands here. They're just gonna pitch right over the top of it, and that player lifts their hands up, and it's an issue every single time. And you know, I feel happy that this video became so frequently watched by people in the industry, and a bit of a staple there in terms of dealing schools, because I've noticed since I put this stuff out, some of the stuff I teach has improved the general dealing for a lot of people in the industry, and I'm really happy about that. I was sort of showing extreme examples here, and I feel like it's worked by teaching these extreme examples. I've also seen a lot of people that they learn how to do this kickback pitch when you got someone that's got like a very difficult obstacle to go around. So they'll sort of, let me actually extend this so you can see it a little bit better. They'll sort of go like this here, where they you know, you pitch to this seat and then you cut back. And I'm like happy because I taught that in this video. Something that's interesting here, I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, I have trouble pitching cards to seats 2 and 3. They flip up a lot when I go to do it. What's going on? if that's you and you have trouble pitching to seats 2 or 3, take your wrist that you pitch with, I'm assuming you're right-handed, and turn it up, your palm up toward the ceiling more when you pitch. And it's going to make it a lot easier to get those cards over there. It's a nice little adjustment. I've had to tell people 100 times to do this. They've asked me, how do I pitch? Like, it's literally that simple. You just take your wrist, instead of pitching kind of sideways like this, just turn it up more. It's a good practice in general to turn it up more toward the ceiling. You can get a better pitch, and you'll flip cards less frequently. And I didn't include that info in this video because I didn't understand that people would have that issue, or people have that issue so much. But since then, it's been super clear, and that's the fix like every single time. It's really nice being able to explain that right now. Let's see. Greg said some casinos offer tableside dining. What's your take on that? I'll answer it in a second. Vincent said, hey, thanks for everything, Mark. I have to get going. Have a great day, man. Appreciate you, Vincent. Enjoy the rest of your day. Greg says, tableside dining, I personally think that every single room has its own situation that it has to sort of figure out, right? So you've got, in some poker rooms, you've got like people that are going to kind of hit and run. There's a lot of the turnover. At a place like Mohegan Sun, there's not as many options around. People drive a little bit further to get there a lot of the time. It's sort of set back in like a less populated area of Connecticut. And, you know, Foxwoods has the same type of thing out there. The general answer that I have is the more likely players are to come and play for a long time in your room, the more you need to offer tableside food. And you should have a menu that's not that messy, right? A lot of poker rooms that I've been at and talked to the owners of, or the managers of, they put a lot of thought into what their poker menu is. They don't want people eating and then creating this insane mess. Now during COVID, it's even more complicated, but I don't really think you're asking about that. My personal take on tableside dining is the menu should be intelligent. It should be foods that are not going to cause an issue. There should be easy access to tray tables, and I think it's good to allow players to do that because, I mean, at the end of the day, I'll read the next comment in a second. At the end of the day, poker players, the things that they want are the things that the poker rooms have to be able to problem solve in order to provide. Otherwise, they're just going to go play somewhere that gives them the things that they want. So if people are going and they're going to be spending long periods of time playing poker at a particular room, if there's enough people that want to be able to eat at the table, if it's offered somewhere else, they might as well offer it at the room that the person wants to play at. But yeah, I mean, certainly not spaghetti and meatballs, or I mean, a lot of people eat chicken and it makes a crazy mess. And the players need to be held accountable too. If they're eating irresponsibly at the table and making a mess, they need to be kicked out if it was that obnoxious, right? At the very least, they need to be warned. But I'm not trying to say, like, go kick players out. But I've seen some insane things that are incredibly disrespectful too. So those things, like, I'm sorry, but you have to leave. You can come back 24 hours from now if you'd like. But this mess needs to be cleaned up now. Something like that. Just take care of it as a manager. Don't enable this type of behavior, is my opinion. Let's see. Greg says it takes me 5 hours to get there from where I live. Yeah, so I mean, look, if you're going to Mohegan Sun, you're looking to play poker, right? Like, you're looking to play for an extended period of time. You might even be looking to get a room there. Greg says, personally, I don't eat tableside for the reasons you just described. So what I've personally done in the past as a poker player, you know, I usually talk about being a dealer, but as a poker player, I like options like a mixed fruit cup where there's like a bunch of fruit that's all cut up. And maybe something like toast where I can put it on a side table and I use a fork to eat it. I don't touch it with my hands. Toast is actually not a good example. I wasn't really thinking it through when I said that part. The fruit is the thing that I've actually eaten. Something that I don't have to touch with my hands that's not going to make a mess. And I eat it not over the actual table, and I eat it in between hands and stuff like that. Foods like that to me make a lot of sense. And, you know, Greg says, personally, I don't eat tableside for the reasons I described. I'll just go to one of the restaurants. I mean, think of it this way. If you're a poker pro, which, I mean, you seem like a good player. If you're a poker pro, you are almost by default costing yourself money if you're eating, but you could easily be playing at the same time. Every poker pro's got their hourly that's figured out, so the poker room doesn't want to prevent them from being able to do their thing. Rowa Tuduki Chan says, "Can you?" I think it says, "Teach me to play poker, please," or "Teach me a little bit of poker." What I'm going to do is, I'm not sure what stage you're at, but if you're, let me see, I do board gaming cheese and meat platters like 5-5. I could see that. I mean, I've seen poker players get the most expensive steakhouse takeout delivered to the poker room, and they eat it with like a steak with a knife and fork and all this stuff. I mean, you can do it. The better you are at poker, chances are the more capable you are at eating. That's totally not true all the time, but generally speaking, it is. And there's truth to that. What I'm going to do in order to help you learn poker, I'm not sure what stage you're at, but I'm going to put a link in there to one of the videos on my channel that teaches the basics. This will make it easier for you to understand the game, and you can sort of take it from there. Let's see. Just got to take a sec for this to load. The live stream is taking up a lot of my bandwidth here, which is to be expected. So I'm going to videos, and I am going to find the correct one. There's one video in particular that's one of the lessons along the way. It's after I teach all the mechanics, but it teaches you, sort of what you're looking at here. This is it. So I'm going to just paste this in for you so that you can sort of get the basics. And this is going to teach you the hand rankings and some stuff like that. And if you're learning to play poker and you want to really get a sense of how that works, I'll send you another link right now that'll help you there. Let's see. Whoops. Oh, I see what I did. So you can just, I'm going to send a link to a playlist here, and copy link address. There we go. And you can go here as well. So the first one is somewhere where you can sort of learn the hand rankings and stuff like that. The second link here is, it's a simulated game. It's live poker coaching. It's a thing that I'm building, and that's going to teach you how to be a really good poker player. It's going to take a handful of videos to learn that, but those keep coming out every day. So those are two good places to start, depending on what your skill level is. You said thanks. You're welcome. Ekalor says, "I do board gaming. Cheese and meat platter is like 5 out of 5. It's really interesting. A cheese and meat platter at a poker table would be pretty cool. I mean, that's not the type of stuff that I eat personally, but I could see that being efficient. And I imagine you using toothpicks or something like that. I'm curious, what do you use to eat that?" I say it like Chandler from Friends. What do you use to eat that? So I'm going to go back to this video here, and we'll sort of continue on. By the way, I have noticed, I feel like even though my specialty is teaching people how to deal, I feel like a lot of people like learning how to play poker from me too. And that's part of the motivation for creating live poker coaching in the first place. Greg says, "I'll drink something every now and then, water to stay hydrated, and coffee to keep myself awake." I find, this is me, I find water I drink a lot of. Coffee, when I drink coffee at the poker table, the caffeine just hits me so hard, and I become such an impulsive poker player. It's crazy. Instead of keeping me awake, I just like want to go all in every hand. And so if you ever had a poker table with me, offer me coffee, right? And it'll probably be easier to get my money. I don't think most people are like that though. All right, let's go back to this video. The pitch situations continuing.
So just to keep the cards correct, then we pitch a card over there, and say that this card was face up in the deck. Well, that would be a box card. In other words, we pitch over there, and then this card's just sitting there face up. That's a box card. You call your supervisor for that. That's very important. It's different than an exposed card. See, what's going to happen is sometimes you're going to go so quickly that you pitch here, pitch here, pitch here. When that happens, make sure that you see where this card is. Take this card back, put it back on the deck. Take this card over here, put it face up on the deck, just where it was. Call your supervisor over. Now, if there were a few cards, you wouldn't back them up on the deck like that, but you'll know it when you get in there. But here's the thing. Your supervisor, when they get to the table, is most likely, hopefully, going to put this straight to the muck as if it had never happened. It's a little bit different than an exposed card, which I'll show you in a second. Then the next card is going to go to this player.
So...
For my meal kit delivery...
Gosh. Commercials. It won't let me
I
pause for a
chose the
second.
vegetarian box, and the meals that I received were the salsa verde enchiladas,
Well, hello everybody.
What just happened? Why did it not let me stay on my video?
Is back. Oh, and it is ferociously entertaining.
I wanted to make a point, but I want it to be on the video, and now I have to listen to 2 ads. Classic, right? That's okay. So the point that I was going to make was, I forget. I have to see what I'm looking at now. All right. So we were over here somewhere, right? We were talking about a box card. So, what was I gonna say? Was that Daniel Negreanu just in? I think that was a Daniel Negreanu video. Yeah, I don't know exactly what I was just looking at. As far as I could tell, I clicked on the middle of the screen on my video, and it acted like I clicked on a different video. It might have thought I clicked on the Poker Ranges Explained from 2 years ago video that's up in the upper right that you can't see at the moment. But I think that's what it was. But I did not click anywhere near there. I don't really know what happened. So let me watch this again, because there was a point that I wanted to make here, and I feel sort of passionate about it.
See it as it was in the air in this direction. That's an exposed card. Any card that flashes, any card that lands face up is an exposed card. Say that you pitch straight to the muck as if it had never happened. It's a little bit different than an exposed card, which I'll show you in a second.
So most poker rooms do handle box cards pretty universally. I think I do a pretty good job explaining this here. Box card is, well, you know, some states have different regulations about how to handle it. One of the toughest things about teaching to a broad audience for how to deal poker is I'm teaching for people going into all different types of poker rooms with all different rule sets, and I'm trying to do it in a way that's like polite but also opinionated and intelligent, and it's a little bit challenging. Ramon says hi. Hey, what's up? Alfie says sup guys. Hey, how's it going, Alfie? I don't remember what my point was here. Let's keep watching.
And then the next card is going to go to this player. That's why you can't just handle it yourself. There's another reason as well, but you'll let your supervisor handle that. So say that you've got one card over here, because we've pitched all the way around to here, and it's this person's turn, and you kind of flash it like that so that these players could see it as it was in the air in this direction. That's an exposed card. Any card that flashes, any card that lands face up is an exposed card. Say that you pitch it, it hits the chips, and it lands this way. Say that you pitch it, I'm going to put this down for a second. You normally don't do this in poker. Say that you pitch it, it hits this hand and flips up. This would be the player's hand, not my hand. If it flips up before it has a chance to be secured, then it's an exposed card. And the way that you handle it is by leaving it in front of that player, pitching out the rest of the cards, go back around the obstacle, and now you've got your burn card over here. Well, the burn card is going to replace the exposed card. The exposed card goes face up on the deck. You announce to the table, 5 of diamonds in this case is the burn card, and now that will actually be your burn card, and they get that one. If there's 2 or more, then that's a misdeal, and we'll get into that in the rules of poker.
So something really interesting about this, last year in 2019, the Tournament Directors Association really pushed their recommended procedures about random card theory. It's recommended procedure number 14. And in talking about random card theory, they basically said that the stub in a dealer's hand is supposed to be completely random. Theoretically, a card that comes for every single card that comes out in poker is supposed to be a random card and nothing else. And it's interesting here because the way they were talking about it, this rule in poker, this card that's exposed now cannot become any of the board cards to come. And it doesn't change things a ton, but it does change them a little bit, right? The situation where it really changes things is if you have a pocket pair that match the card that was exposed. It actually completely changes the odds on your hand. So there is something pretty powerful about the idea that this exposed card should theoretically be able to come as a board card. And I believe that poker's sort of headed there with random card theory. For more about random card theory, you can see I'm working on a project where I'm helping the TDA define using video examples a lot of their rules to help people understand them better. But this is something right now that, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, this card should be able to come in the deck. Something that people don't usually realize, and they made this point in the last TDA Summit, was really interesting to hear. Online poker is something that people are very used to. Now, we all worry, oh, what if it's being manipulated, stuff like that, because we don't see a dealer actually shuffle the cards. But that being said, we do think that as long as online poker is random, we're fine with it, and the thing we're worried about is that it's not truly fair, right? But let's assume for a second it's fair. We had a lot of trust in PokerStars back in the day. We had a lot of trust in Full Tilt back in the day. Now that did backfire with Full Tilt. But so PokerStars in their software, they used to shuffle a 52 card deck, and they would take that 52 card deck and then they would deal cards out from it electronically, right? And that's how the flop, turn, and river would come out. Full Tilt never did that in their software, and we were all totally fine with it. What Full Tilt did was they would remove all the cards that were dealt to players from the pool of cards. They never created a 52 card deck, and they would randomly pull cards from the remaining pool per hand for the flop, turn, and river. And we were all totally fine with that. And realistically, that's the most fair way to do things in live poker too. It works totally fine if there's card. Now in online poker you can't have an exposed card, which is a beautiful thing. In live poker you can, but theoretically if a card is exposed and it doesn't end up going to a player, the industry is starting to push toward that card having an equal shot at coming out later. And that's the point that I'm trying to make here. That burn card that I just showed you, that's the current way that we handle it. It does speed things up, and because it speeds things up, I imagine that we'll probably keep things like that for a while. But there is an argument to be made that card should have a chance to come for the flop, turn, and river. Just thought that was an interesting point. But that being said, this is the standard. So a box card, you call a supervisor immediately. An exposed card, this is the practice to use, and this is still very common to this day. When it comes to games other than Texas Hold'em, such as 7-card stud, nowadays, they used to make it so that if you in 7-card stud, everybody gets 2 down cards and 1 up card. They used to make it so that if you accidentally flipped one of the down cards, it would become the up card. Then they changed it so that it wasn't the case, because people would get upset if you're pitching 7-card stud out and you're going, as you're pitching the 7-card stud out, here, let me show you guys this. This is just an interesting thing that I think helps give some perspective here. So if you're pitching out to 7-card stud stacks, this is what we're doing. We're doing additional commentary, right? So let's say you got no button in 7-card stud, right? Stud is 2 down and 1 up, like this, right? And then you flip them over, right? So this is how it normally looks, right? And the way that it works in 7-card stud is the lowest card by suit is the bring in. So this player would have to be the bring in here, okay? So the theory for a long time was if you're dealing out And I'll do it like this so we can see this. If you're dealing out and you get here and you accidentally flip this card, keep pitching. What you would do next is you would go like this, like this, like this, like this. Oh, so this should have been down. It's actually hard to do. When I do this stuff live, I make these types of mistakes sometimes when I'm trying to like do demos because I'm thinking about other things. So let's pretend I correctly gave this player a second card face down. And let's also pretend for a second that it's like this. And actually, I want to do this perfectly, all right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do this. Forget about what just happened. I'm going to do the correct demo to illustrate my point correctly. And you guys will see what I'm talking about. All right, so if I'm pitching 7-card stud, and I pitch to this and it accidentally flips over. All right, now, if we say this is now going to be this player's up card, and then we finish it off like this, and we pitch that one down, and this up. All right, now this player, the way they had the rule for a long time was this player is not the bring in. They didn't think it was fair that this player ends up getting the wrong card exposed. It wasn't supposed to be the one that was exposed. And the poker industry used to be very big on deck order. Yes, this is live. The poker industry used to be very big on deck order, and this card right here that was flipped up used to not be allowed to be the bring in. Now the TDA is changing it so that this card can be the bring in. And the World Series was so annoyed with this whole dynamic that they said, forget it. We're changing everything. We're making it so that if you flip a card face up to any position, it's just a misdeal. Well, the TDA is going back on that, and they're saying random card theory. Whichever card ends up being their up card, they can be the bring in. So 7-card stud people don't care too much about anymore. The TDA makes fun of it all the time because it's like an older game. But they're trying to really, my point there is they're trying to really go to random card theory, and it feels really cool. M Tech TV, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate that you joined the channel. There's a lot of good stuff in those live streams. You'll be able to find so many different things. Some of it's like fun content, some of it is little training things. It's mostly me answering questions. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. So yeah, I really wanted to sort of talk about like where the industry's going, and for anyone that really loves poker, being a part of the TDA is just, it's really fun to like go back and really absorb all that stuff. I sort of hope that they start making these things a little bit more entertaining too, because right now the rebroadcast of it's sort of dry and boring, and Johnny Grooms it's like they've got some guys on this. I'm saying Johnny, he's I really, really admire and respect him. He is really hard to understand on the rebroadcast because they don't mic him up. It's just like they have microphones that you can hear through the regular like sound system, and then they pick that audio up, and it's really hard to hear. He talks like this really quick, and he's like, it's really, I don't know. I'm not trying to make fun of him if he ever sees this. I'm saying that I like him, but I wish that the TDA would improve their video quality so that it could be more watchable, because these things are really valuable for people, especially in the industry. So let's see.
And also, we'll get into it also that you burn that card face down eventually as your burn card. Now, one other thing that can happen, pretend that this is not any exposed card anymore. We're going to just put this on the top of the deck and pretend we're pitching. If you pitch a card and it goes on top of the rail, well, that's strangely okay. If it goes...
I did not intentionally... I've had people say to me for years, like, wow, that's really impressive that you were able to pitch that card and get it to land on the rail. Isn't that, I was trying to pitch it over. It would be very difficult to do what I did perfectly, because there's no, like, I don't cut this. This is one take. This whole video is just one take. I would have been like patting myself on the back and stuff if that was intentional. But for what it's worth, that is true. If it lands on the rail and it clearly hasn't been exposed, okay. And as you hear me say, I'll rewind it a bit. That's strangely okay, meaning I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, we'll just watch that again because it's fun.
Pitching. If you pitch a card and it goes on top of the rail, Well, that's strangely okay. If it goes below the rail and off the table, pretend that happened when I pitched it, that's going to be a supervisor call. Eventually, that card is going to be an exposed card if it's during the pitch, just like one that flips up. Right? This one, say that this one flipped up, that would be the first exposed card. The one off the rail would be the second. If there hadn't been an exposed card, the one that goes off the rail is the first one. Make sure that the player does not pick it up. That's for a supervisor or other poker room staff member to do, and that will be treated like an exposed card.
So that's totally true as well. Any card that goes off the table to the floor is supposed to be picked up by someone that works in the poker room. What I have noticed is some poker rooms care about that, some poker rooms don't. Ultimately, this is probably more important in table games, but it is still the rule. So sort of do what your room says, but I think it's a much better practice for the staff to be the ones to pick up cards that go to the floor. That way it makes it a lot harder for somebody to cheat. And one of the most frustrating things would be if you're running a poker room and a player manages to get their hands on a card. Like if players go down there and someone snags a card and then hides it and no one can figure out where it went and then they're out the door, you got to replace all the cards. It's just such a nightmare for a poker room. So it's a very good house policy. If you're thinking about opening a room, it's a very good house policy to make it so that a staff member has to pick up any card that's down and to train your dealers about that. David says, what do you do while dealing a hand a player is absent from the table? In a tournament, you deal them in and you kill it. They have to be within an arm's length of the table before the last card's off the deck for the pitch. In a cash game, if they're up from the table, most of the time you're going to deal them out. Occasionally, if you're dealing a raked game in a casino, you're supposed to deal them in until they miss a blind and then you deal them out. But almost all the time, if a player's absent from the table in a cash game, you just deal him out, no big deal. Alfie says, in my casino, if it's cash game, you don't deal him in if he's not at the table, and throw him miss blinds if misses a blind. Totally. So yeah, in a cash game, you don't deal him if he's not at the table, and you throw him a miss blind if he misses a blind. Absolutely the standard. Again, in some higher stakes time raked games, in some time rake games, they actually teach you to deal in every single player every single time. And the higher stakes, the more leniency there are for these little detail rules too, and the enforcement of it, and the way that the floors work. You can see, I've gone in the past in some of the live streams, some of the really high stakes private games, or even some of like the Bike Live games, they follow a different set of rules just in those individual games. It's just worth me saying that. In general, though, what Alfie said is 100% right. I appreciate that question. So I didn't say this. Greg says, would you just call out card down or something? Yes. And I guess I didn't explain that. You would say, literally, that's a terminology. Maybe you've heard that in table games, too. It's card down, table number, and then you say the table. So you want to yell that loud enough for someone to come quickly because everything's waiting while that's going on. Super, super important. Kevin just joined the bonus mixed game lessons. Kevin, super appreciate you. Appreciate you for joining that. Definitely reach out to me if you need. You get access to everything with that. So that'll get you access to all the mixed games so you can deal a WSOP event. And you'll be able to pass those auditions with what's in there. So super appreciative for you to join that. Thank you so much. And don't be shy reaching out to me. Alfie says, Greg says, card down, table 54. Absolutely. Alfie says, in tournament, you deal cards to a stack and take blinds out of the stack while they're gone. That's true too. In a tournament, if a player is up from the table or at the table, it doesn't matter. They have to pay every single blind, every single time. There's no exceptions there. So that is definitely a valuable lesson there, right? Like it sort of feels weird as a dealer to go and take, here, let me sort of show it this way. It sort of feels weird as a dealer to go and like take chips off a player's stack in a tournament. Sometimes you want to ask the player sitting next to them to do that, but that is what you do. Every single player has to do that every single time. Let's see. Wait, they used to make you call out card down. Explain. Oh, I see. So it depends on the casino, and I can tell you in table games you do actually yell this out and have a supervisor come get it or somebody like that. In a lot of poker rooms, they just don't care if a card goes down. In other poker rooms, they will literally call it out and wait until somebody from the room goes and picks it up. And if I'm being honest, I prefer having someone from the room pick it up. There's so many different reasons for that. The number one reason, though, that cards go off the table, in my experience, is not because of the dealers, because a player is tabling them carelessly, where they'll like take a card and just like they'll take their hand at the end and they'll just table it like this, or they'll like snap it down and it'll just go bouncing, flying off the table. And it when that happens, it's just much better to have a staff come. It's also going to discourage players from doing that. People don't want to have to wait. Everyone will get annoyed with the player instead of the staff. It's the casino policy. They don't want anybody touching cards out of view with a camera, all those types of things. But I really enjoy your response here where you're saying like, wait, they used to make people do that? Like, I've never heard of that. It's because a lot of rooms just don't care. It's not a big deal to them. I've even heard rooms like, there's some rooms that they say in this poker room, if a player tables their hand and it flies off the table before it actually was flat on the felt, those cards don't play. They're dead. I sort of like working places like that. There's other poker rooms that they will say, as long as it's still identifiable, they'll allow the card to play. I think that's encouraging people to be crazy. But one of the things that happened in poker about 15 years ago or so is maybe a little bit less than that, maybe like 10 years. There was this shift where poker rooms really started keeping hands alive instead of killing them when a player broke the rules. It used to be that people would really focus on breaking the rules. Poker rooms would be willing to kill hands when people would break the rules. And I think the entire industry got better when the players could go play poker and they felt confident that they weren't going to kill hands as their way of handling things. Greg say, that's why I prefer to set my hand down gently at showdown. Yeah, listen, as a supervisor and shift manager who has handled many of these floor calls where the cards go flying off the table, I have had to tell players, like, they say it's not my fault. They bounced off the table when I went to show them. Like, they'll take it and they'll say, I went to flip my hand and then it lands, instead of flying this way, it flies this way and then bounce right off the table. And I tell them, listen, okay, nobody touched those cards to project them forward where they went going flying off the table other than you. You are the one that's responsible for that action. Well, I didn't mean to do it. I promise you, I could table my hand 1,000,000 times in a row and I would never get it off the table. I would take it and I would, in my hand, still holding it, flip it over face up and protect it until I talk through that whole thing, and then they're like, oh yeah, because they're like, and this is what the poker rooms have to do with players. They have to put the responsibility on players to take ownership of the things that they have full control over. So as a player, you have full control not to throw your cards to table them. You have full control to place them down on the table to table them every single time if you want. And because of that, the rules they're built to take that stuff into account. Alfie says, oh cool, I actually agree with it. Now player starts tilting off and throws his cards off the table. I'd like to see a couple of my floors come make that call. Who did this? Why? Come pick it up. Have a great day. Yeah, there's some dramatic dynamics that can go on there. So we don't try to kick the players out though when they spike them. Although I will say, if a player spikes cards, I might be misunderstanding. I think I get what you're saying. I might be misunderstanding. If a player spikes their hand and it goes right out and hits the dealer, I think every room should kick a player out for that. Although I do recognize that there's a certain judgment that should be incorporated into that. But as a general rule of thumb, players snapping their cards down, tossing them, if they hit the dealer, like, get them out of there, right? Kick them out, 24-hour minimum. There's no reason for any of that stuff. But if they throw their cards out and they go flying, the penalty, in my opinion, would be the cards don't play unless they were properly tabled, not kicking the player out. But players, by the way, players hate waiting, right? They have to wait already as poker players. for so long, because when you fold a hand, you have to wait until everybody else is done. And then you get another hand, and you fold that hand, you have to wait until the hand is done. And then you fold another hand, you have to wait until the hand is done. And it's like they're already waiting so much. Nobody wants to wait for a supervisor or like a chip runner or a brush or something, or security even. Security can pick it up too, if they happen to be in the room, to come and pick a card up off the floor. By the way, managing cash games is really tricky for a room. Something that's really nice about managing tournaments, you can give players penalties where they get blinded out for an entire round. In a cash game, it's like it doesn't cost them any money, it just costs them some time. But I sort of think that it's a valuable idea to start giving players penalties in cash games too. But it's not the standard yet. But if you started giving penalties in cash games, I bet the behavior would get better. And I've certainly thought through some of those scenarios. Right now, the general mentality in poker is giving players penalties in cash games is like, it doesn't really matter because, so what if they miss their blinds? They just come back on their big blind and it's like nothing happened. But yeah, there's so many things here. Let me see. Ansh, I don't know how to pronounce that. ANSH says, big fan. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Happy to have you in here. David said, best cards to buy in your opinion. Do you prefer plastic or paper? Plastic are for poker, paper are for table games. There's that distinction. They change cards in table games every 4 hours. They don't want players to have any chance of marking any of the cards that are in use, so they just change it every 4 hours or so. So they use paper because they're cheaper and they're quicker to use and all that. In poker, it's not the house's money, so we want the cards to last because it's just, and then they get abused and all this stuff, so the plastic ones are going to do a lot better. So plastic in poker, always. It's not, like, there's no question here. It's always plastic. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I like Copags. And I do have links to those in different places throughout my content. But you can get them on Amazon if you want. Greg says, maybe that's why I see so many phones and music players at the poker table. Me, I pass the time by watching the action and looking for tells I can exploit. Yes. A lot of people feel the downtime in their soul, and they are looking for anything to do in order to continue that on. It's certainly something that has been at the hearts of problem solvers in poker for a long time, trying to figure out how to make it less boring when you don't have a hand. I mean, I have seen, I'm not joking, I have seen tables like at the Isle in Pompano, they had I forget what the name of it was. My friend Jerry that I was talking about that helped me make these videos originally, he used to deal there, and he said you had to basically deal 2 hands at once. So you had 2 dealers at a table, and each dealer at that table was responsible for one of the sets of hands, if I remember right, and there was like different colors and different locations for stacks and all this stuff. So they tried to make it so you could be in 2 hands at a time in one table. Multi-action poker might have been what it was called. I really forget, but something about that whole thing was really interesting. They've been trying to solve the problem of downtime forever in poker. Nowadays, what the industry sort of does is it's just very accepting that people are going to get bored, and so that's why electronics are just such an important part of being able to have that at the poker table, because it was not allowed. You know, everybody was terrified of Mike Postle at their table in some way or another, which you couldn't do that because he actually had RFID access, allegedly. You know, he was not convicted, but I think everybody sees the evidence that shows that he appears to be guilty. I know that I can't say that he was guilty with definitiveness, so I'm saying allegedly. But nonetheless, people were afraid of that for a long time, so they said no cell phones, no cell phones, no cell phones. And then everybody got bored at the table, and their cell phones got cooler and cooler. And now everyone's got to be able to have a cell phone, because how can you live without it? It's an extension of our humanity at this point. But it's certainly an interesting topic, to say the least. Let's see. Alfie says, we might be dealing with paper in poker rooms because of the outbreak. It's an interesting comment. The only thing I'll say is there are cleaners for the cards. I know at the Seminole Tribes, where my roommate works, she was saying that they actually go in and sanitize the chips in the bank every 4 hours. Like every single chip gets pulled out, sanitized, put back in. They're a little wet as a result, but they feel clean. And she's a germaphobe who deals poker, which is a bad combination. And she has been saying how appreciative she is that they do that. Forget about COVID, just period, because the chips were always sort of gross. Looks like I disappeared for a second again, but I seem to be back. Master of Cards says, Mark, greatest dealer on YouTube, I have a question. Have you ever seen a dealer who has knowledge on card cheating techniques, trying to do fishy stuff to get money from players? So I appreciate that. And Master of Cards, if I remember correctly, you have quite the YouTube following. I remember looking at some of your stuff. I sort of want to see this and just highlight this so that people go check you out, because I have this memory that you've got like 100,000 subscribers or something awesome. So let's do this first. Yeah. So first of all, everybody that's watching right now, feel free to check him out, Master of Cards. He has a really cool channel. It's not all in English from what I remember, but yes, I did check you out because I was like, hey, your stuff seems like it's awesome, and I just throw a ton of respect to anybody that hits 100,000 plus subscribers on their channel. I mean, I'm not even at 15,000, so you guys can imagine what it takes to do what Master of Cards has done. So to answer your question, you said, so glad you checked my channel out. Yeah, why not? So I know a bunch of dealers that are capable of it. And those particular dealers all came from Magic backgrounds where they were learning how to, Brazilian magician and card mechanic. Okay, that totally makes sense. That's a comment that Master Card just put. Here's the thing. I've said this before. In casinos, there is a requirement in most locations to have at least 3 HD cameras on every single table with multiple angles. Because of that, anytime there's anything fishy at all, and yes, I have been alerted to and seeked out and found things that were not kosher, I'll say, for my Jewish background here. So there's plenty of things that get investigated. You can slow things down on camera in HD to the extent that you can see what happens. And the general way that we, as the trainers in casinos, communicate to the dealers that are doing things at the tables is, it's not worth your job, it's not worth your livelihood. So the very first thing that I ever heard about at a casino that I worked at, the very first casino I worked at was a small tribal casino in Washington State, and it wasn't poker, it was table games. There was a dual rate supervisor and a dealer that were working together doing a mini baccarat scandal where they were doing a phony shuffle. In that phony shuffle, they were able to keep the card order preserved. They were also in it with the players. And the players there, so basically the supervisor coordinated it, so they were the ones that was running the rotation and sending different dealers to different tables. They sent the dealer that they wanted to the baccarat table. The players at the baccarat table were in cahoots with them, and they knew that when this dealer was there, they were going to receive a phony shuffle. The phony shuffle would keep the order of the cards. Baccarat is notorious for players having these like index cards with all this space on them and keeping all these notes on it. So they managed to write it down in an order that that they could tell what cards were going to come in what order, so that the next time the same shoe went through, the next time that the cards went through, they made it so that the players could predict the order and then therefore make appropriate bets. They took about 90,000 off the table. The casino, because it's table games, from that point decided, oh, we're going to review this, and they reviewed it. And like, I'm telling you, HD, this was in like 2006. I think it was 2006 that this happened. And the cameras were good enough back then, so you can imagine what they're like now, So they reviewed the whole thing and they caught them. These people had done this at other casinos too. They sort of made the mistake of well, they made the mistake of doing it in the first place, but they sort of made the mistake of, they did this for millions of dollars at other casinos. They made the mistake of doing it at a small casino where the table, like when they win or lose, it's just so much more obvious that something weird's going on. That's why they reviewed it. But realistically, I've also seen this type of thing in poker. There was once a dealer that was caught taking they would take one extra red chip out of each pot that they could and put it in their tip box. And one thing about dealers getting extra tips, every single dealer has to tip out at the end of their shift. And so when you go and tip out, when your numbers are higher, you automatically get investigated. They want to see why. They want to make sure that it's all being done in a legitimate fashion. I have absolutely investigated an entire dealing sequence of a dealer who had considerably more $2 chips than anyone else. And what I found was they were really smart and really quick, but completely legitimate. But yeah, there's a lot of reviews that go on in order to maintain integrity in poker rooms. And at the end of the day, dealers make enough money. Like a good poker dealer is going to be making 25 to 40 plus an hour, and a really good poker dealer, especially if it's like a pretty girl, can be easily making 60, 70, 80 an hour. And I don't actually say that number very often because it feels sort of unfair that a pretty girl who knows how to work the table in a completely legit way would make that much money. But nonetheless, that's sort of how the world works anyway. But it's real. I mean, I've seen, you see the comparison. But these pretty girls get investigated too, which is part of why I bring this up. When they're dealers, they just want to see that it's all done legitimately. So these cameras in use is my point. Now, I've also, I have friends, like I said, they're magician. They have magician backgrounds. They can deal the second card off the deck and all that stuff. Even that stuff can be caught. I've never personally heard of or seen somebody try that in casinos and get caught. But, there's other things too, like when you're dealing in poker and you pick the cards up, you pick the cards up away from you. There's little things like this where you're not supposed to be able to see any of them, and this is part of the reason why. So if I ever see a dealer that's picking the cards up facing them, they're going to get investigated pretty hard as well. Just to sort of skip ahead and finish responding. So glad you checked my channel. Brazilian magician. Yep. HD surveillance totally makes sense. Do you know any professionals who are experts on gambling protection? Let me see. Like Steve Forte, for example. Do you know how much they make a year? I suppose it's a lot. So the director of surveillance, surveillance makes decent money. I have some people that I'm friendly with that have worked in surveillance. It's interesting. As a general rule of thumb, the people that work in surveillance are taught not to become friendly with the people that work in table games that they're monitoring. But it still happens, especially the smaller a casino is. But also, there's an interesting relationship between the people that work in poker and table games and the people that work in surveillance. Basically, the phone line is the connection between, the people up in surveillance. I say upstairs, even though they're just in a different place on the same floor a lot of the time. But, you got to call them up and ask them to look at different things for hands sometimes that are even going on, where did this card disappear to or whatever it is. And so you create relationships with them as well in that sense. But if you're asking me to recommend somebody to talk to, I could get in touch with somebody, but I don't have anybody that comes to mind right now that I know for sure is still doing it. But I would just jump on LinkedIn and talk to some of the people I used to work with. There's some people that I've worked with that are really good with surveillance. And in terms of how much they get paid, the director of surveillance that's above all of it, they definitely get up in the six-figure range, and a lot of properties. And sometimes they have security and surveillance in one thing, but there's a lot to the answer to that question, sort of. But I don't know Steve Forte. I know who you're talking about. Because surveillance is sort of kept away from poker and table games, I probably know less than you would expect about the amount of money that they make. Because I also, in addition to that being a thing, I would also keep my distance from it intentionally because I knew that I didn't want to tempt them to become friendly with people in my department when that was frowned upon in theirs, and I just didn't want to create that tension. And part of the reason that you're supposed to keep a distance from that department is they're supposed to be monitoring you, if they're friends with you, they're going to let things slide, and that's not what they're supposed to do. So it's just human nature. Like, once you feel friendship with somebody, you don't want to get them in trouble, and then it creates this imbalanced profession where the integrity is not fully there. Let's see. Spiro says, finally caught you in time. Haven't been on during your streams as of late. Yeah, this one's gone a bit late. I started about 20-something minutes early. Greg, you came on saying, hey, sorry I missed it. You barely missed anything because I was so late starting this time. David says, biggest mistake you've ever done as a dealer? I don't know that this is the biggest mistake I've ever done, but I'll certainly answer it as something that I remember. Let me just make sure. So there were 2 times that I remember doing something like this, where there would be 3 players left, something like this, and let's see, we got a pretty big pot, something like this. Actually, it's 1-2 no limit, so there's not a whole lot of green chips. Maybe I'll put some like this in, right, and something like this in, right. So we'll say this player's all in for this main pot here, and these 2 players are left to act. So in order to speed things up, this is one of the downsides. I used to, let's say there's a flop already. What I used to do was I used to leave the bets in front of the players, and I still like doing this because it's quicker. So what would happen is this player would go all in. This player would be thinking about it here. This player would say call. And the mistake that I made was I would bring the turn, I would bring the river. These players would table their hand, and this is a bad example. Let's switch it. These players would table their hand, and this player would win kings and a jack with a jack and a 10. I would kill this hand because it didn't win, and just push the pot just like that without ever getting this player's bet. And if this player had a lot, I just pushed the pot right through this player's bet that I had to get the call amount, and that's a really embarrassing mistake to make. So I had to retrain myself to slow down for that one situation, because the floor came, there was no way to tell how much the bet was. They just slid a stack forward over here. I had to figure this player owes the wrong amount, this player's upset with me. It's just a mess. I've done that before. Super embarrassing to say that I've done that, but I'm also honest about it, It says, Van Shark says, wait for your turn to act because you're first in the hand. I'm sorry, I don't remember the context, Van Shark Tank. If you can remind me, I'll certainly answer you there. Let's see. Sparrow says, have you played it all recently? I have not played it all recently. I wish that I could. Van Shark Tank says, Jerry Limber, Jalims? I don't know what we're talking about. Let's see. MasterCard says, that's why there are so many small rules on dealing procedure. I think most people do not know why there's a cut card. Why the cut card has to be done one-handed. Everything is to prevent card cheating. Absolutely. And one of my favorite things to do when training is to try to get people to realize you want to focus on the why, not just the what when you're the trainer. So teaching people why these different things are done is way more valuable to new people entering the industry than teaching them just what. Because if you teach them just what they're supposed to do, they go to a room and someone will tell them that's not what we do here, and they're like, no, this is what you're supposed to do. I learned this. And then they're like, well, why would you do that? And they're like, I don't know. But if there's a reason, you can actually have a positive impact on the room that you're going to, But yeah, I would be really interested if you have any interest in getting into surveillance. I feel like you would probably like it. I don't know if you're still watching Master of Cards, but if you do have any interest in getting into surveillance or any of that stuff, I guess I feel curious where you're coming from. I think about your skill set, and I'm certainly not questioning your integrity, but I'm curious, is he trying to see if he can beat casinos and get a job there and take advantage of it, or is he trying to see how to become someone that works in casinos? I would caution even the best magician in the world against trying to go up against... Oh, you're still here. Excellent. I would caution even the best magician in the world against trying to go up against casino surveillance. Even if you get away... even if not you, but even if somebody, a dealer, gets away with something for a little bit, first of all, you can face criminal charges. It's not a slap on the wrist if you're stealing money and all that, you know. But yeah, for somebody like you to get into casino surveillance would be pretty cool because you gain so much perspective, right? Also, for what it's worth, if you were to get into casino surveillance and really learn that whole world, you could make some pretty cool videos as well. He says, I would never use card cheating at a table. Haha, I know it's impossible. Yeah, totally. And I was making the assumption that that's what I just, like, the thought crossed my mind, like, oh, I wonder why he's asking this stuff. But yeah, like I said, I've watched some of his stuff. It's really cool, and I feel very excited that you're even thinking about surveillance in general. That's really cool. Spiro says, a dealer in table games once paid the wrong amount to a player in roulette. The player called for a floor, and if I remember right, they didn't review in surveillance. He sided with the player, had the dealer pay, and that dealer got replaced right after. Is this common? Yes. You know, it's kind of off topic. Yeah, if a dealer makes a mistake, a lot of the time you can tell what was supposed to happen even without surveillance. You really only go to surveillance as an absolute last resort. You want to use all your available information to make a decision without going to surveillance. Because you don't want to create that dependency, and you also, like, think of it this way. If you've got 6 people at the table that are playing roulette, calling surveillance and having them review it and holding everything up is going to take 10 minutes sometimes. You could get 3 or 4 or 5 spins in that amount of time on a roulette table, and you're costing yourself, as a casino, you're costing yourself all the money that you would get from that situation. It makes way more sense just to give the player what he wants, like, or what she wants, and you just make your money back on the next spins. That's casino mentality, and it's totally accurate. Alex says, hey Mark, I messaged you on Facebook a few months ago about going to school in Phoenix. I had to stop for a bit due to high amount of COVID cases here, but tonight is my first night heading back. Oh, that's great. I do remember your name, and I'll go back and check out what you said, but yeah, reach out to me more, and I appreciate you reaching out in the live stream. It's awesome. It's good to see you here. I'm trying to remember the exact conversation we had. I'll go back and look at it after this. Let's see. David says, favorite famous player versus favorite character you've seen at a table. Character is an interesting question. I imagine you're talking about people that are like the characters in my poker room that I've seen, and I'm not sure if you're asking me like who would win, like versus, but let me just sort of talk about this briefly. So the famous player that is my personal favorite, I really enjoy Jason Mercier. I feel like he's really good at what he does. He's super on point. He's really intelligent, and he just crushes poker consistently. And I've enjoyed dealing to him in the past. My favorite character that I've seen, and he would beat anybody ever that I've ever seen, like literally. And he's got a baby now, and he's not playing as much, and I'm a baby because of that. Favorite character I've seen at the table. There was a guy at the very first poker room I used to work at. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he was such a fun personality. He just wanted to have fun all the time. He knew how to play poker, but he was certainly not there for the money. A lot of people that come and play regularly, they're there for social interaction, and he was one of these guys. He would just like start ordering lunch. He said, I'll order a lunch. Can you get me a lunch? And he'd be referring to a beer. So he'd kind of start going, and he'd get a little bit louder and louder as the night would go on. But his whole, like, some people are there to get other players at the table to like go on tilt, and you want to take their money and all this stuff. This guy was there to make everybody laugh so hard that they peed themselves, and he was really good at it. And just like having people like that are regulars, like we would get excited. He would come 1 or 2 days a week. Having people like that come play poker is just such an amazing thing, because it totally lightens the mood for everybody. People have such a good time. And it's huge. It's a home run. And yeah, I definitely missed. I was really sad when I heard he passed away. His name was Wayne, and it just, you can't beat people like that are just like truly like good people that are also like really there to make people laugh and just have a good time. Let's see. Greg says, as far as I know, in Nevada, you could get prison time for cheating. Yeah, there's some serious penalties for sure. I know that the people in Washington State that did that stuff had to do I believe they had to do prison time. I've heard of other things too, where, there was a cashier that I sort of know who they stole like 50 grand and got caught. Like, it's, by the way, once you leave the casino, you're still probably going to get caught. Like, they got caught at a different casino. Because where do you go if you get 50 grand in cash? You go to another casino to try to like make it seem legit, like you won it, right? Don't do that. It's like, I'm not trying to teach you how to steal from a casino, but come on, like that's always how the people get caught. I watch it over and over again. They take it from this casino, they bring it to another casino. It's like, hello, like they're all talking to each other, especially if they're owned by the same company. Master of Cards says, casino surveillance is very nice. I'd really like to be part of it someday. Brazil doesn't have any casinos, only general poker places. I suppose a surveillance expert should work as a dealer for experience, right? That's a great question. Most people that work in surveillance have never been dealers, and I hate talking to people that have no idea like what even the games are that they're trying to work in. And look, they're good people a lot of the times, but it's like, you sort of go like this when you're on the phone with somebody and you're telling them like, if I talk poker with somebody, this is like an entire language surrounding poker. I once got contacted, this was like 6 years ago, I got contacted by Playboy for an article that went in a Playboy. It was about the secret language of casinos. It was a really interesting thing to be reached out to for. And that article was fun. Like I bought that magazine for the article. I'm the only person in the world that can actually say that, I guess. But it's really interesting. Like, if you talk to someone in surveillance that's never really paid attention to poker, doesn't understand the game and all that stuff, like, you're gonna tell them, all right, the flop came out, they're like, they don't know what that is. So like, I can't tell them to be right around on the flop. I'd have to say right around when the first 3 cards come face up on the table. Like, I have to change the language to regular English, and it's just like, oh god. It's much better if somebody has dealt poker. The problem is, dealing poker pays better than working surveillance. Because if you're dealing poker, you're keeping your own tips, you're making 25 to 40 plus an hour, right? If you're in surveillance, it's probably closer to like, I don't know, it depends on the casinos, but it could be somewhere between 15 and like 20 something an hour. And so it's hard to get trained casino dealers to do surveillance. That said, a lot of people, they like, instead of dealing where they're dealing with the customers and all that stuff, a lot of people do enjoy just being in the booth and having their own like social dynamic that they prefer. And so, there are some that do it, but it's not a requirement, and I wish it was a requirement, but it's so hard to do. Instead, what they do is they do training courses for surveillance that try to teach them the games. It's not the same. The nuances of dealing get lost in that, but it is still pretty valuable. But yeah, anybody that goes through like dealer training, like honestly, like I haven't thought about this yet, but I should be marketing everything that I have put on YouTube here for the Texas Hold'em membership stuff. I should be marketing this to casino surveillance, because now they can get that training for $49.99 a month, right? And they would absolutely benefit from it. Every single person in surveillance would benefit from that. So that's an interesting little thought that you have just helped me have. I appreciate that. Greg said I don't know why it does that. Like the last time that I played, where is it? The last time I played, I created an impromptu poker comedy show that got an awful lot of laughs. Interesting. Wait, it says no data, the stream. Oh, there we go. They got an awful lot of... The last time I played, I created an impromptu poker comedy show that got an awful lot of laughs. I think you're referring to what I was talking about, Wayne. The more laughter you can get at the table, the more money that you're going to get at the table if you're a good poker player too. Mike Caro used to talk about that all the time. He's famous for Mike Caro's book on tells, and one of the original best teachers in poker. And nowadays, you can still actually reach out to Mike Caro. I have a friend that's done this, and it's been really successful. You can learn how to play poker from him. He tutors people. I don't know how many people he takes on, but yeah. super interesting stuff there. But make people laugh, get more money, totally a thing, totally valuable. Alfie says, I've heard that some casinos now do background checks on you and won't hire former dealers to be surveillance officers because it would be a conflict of interest. So, surveillance is a weird department. No one knows who they are, where they are, how much they even get paid. Yes, it's totally, there's a lot of truth to all that. It varies casino to casino. So they want, this is even more reason for me to potentially reach out to casino surveillance departments and talk to them about utilizing True Poker Dealer, because they can learn all this stuff about how to deal without having to actually learn to deal. And it's sort of the perfect context. Greg says, I can attest to that session. I was in for 200, out for 705. Master of Cards says, ha 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 ha. I assume that you're listening to the story I just told. It's casino surveillance is something I don't think I've talked about yet until today, but on True Poker Dealer. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. So I'm gonna jump back into the video and just sort of try to get through the rest of this. I do have to wrap this up. I have something pretty soon that I have a commitment in 20 minutes. So I'm gonna continue with this poker pitch situations video, just commenting on it. Feel free to keep asking questions. Once I finish this, I'll jump back to the questions and then we'll wrap up and call it a day.
Now, one other thing I want to touch on, it's very important, especially when it comes to stuff like this. It's related to integrity. You are the referee of the table. In all sports, there are officials for every single sport. They're the ones that maintain the integrity of the game. Without them, the sport would be kind of crooked. In poker, the dealer is the only one that's at the table that represents the poker room at all times. You are the essential referee of the game, and you need to maintain the integrity, even against yourself. If you pitch a card and it flashes, don't ignore it. The players over there, if it flashed, trust me, they saw it. And even if they didn't actually see it, if there was a chance that they saw it because it flashed, it's your job to make sure that it is what it is, which is a flash card, exposed card. You have to maintain that integrity for everything, verifying that the correct players have the correct cards, verifying that nothing fishy goes on at the table. You need to make sure that you do that. It's a huge part of the dealing job. It's not just mechanics. Hopefully that didn't come across too harshly, because it's very important.
So just to be clear about this point, I wanted to go super hard on this point when I made this video, because it's so easy to get lazy about this. Like, so easy to allow things to happen. Like pitching a card out, if a card sort of flashes and it's possible that somebody sees it, you as a dealer, you're supposed to expose it. No questions asked. Even though it affects your tips, like, these are the things that I was trying to teach in this video, because this is what good dealers do. And experienced dealers, when they don't get in trouble for not doing it over and over again, they just try to start ignoring it, especially dealers that don't play poker and they don't feel the impact emotionally themselves of when a dealer does that to them. Like, the worst thing in the world, well, no, I'm exaggerating, but it sucks when, as a player, you receive a card that you think was flashed and the dealer's not taking that integrity side, and now you have to speak up and be the bad guy. Like, the dealer's supposed to do this. You don't want to go and get that dealer in trouble, right? But like, you don't want that card that was possibly exposed. It flashed on the pitch and they just didn't do anything about it because maybe they hope that it just doesn't matter. Don't be that dealer is what I was trying to say here, and that's sort of the point that I was making.
But thank you very much for watching this video. These are the situations that come up in the
and that's the end of the video anyway. So yeah, that's I'm glad that I made that point back then, and I feel like I definitely helped the industry a bit getting through that. Master of Card says, thanks for addressing my questions, Mark. I'll totally be here at the next live stream. Great. Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. It's almost every single week. I don't guarantee I'll be here every week, but almost every single week. So super happy to have you here, and maybe I can have you on a live stream someday. I really do enjoy having people that have big YouTube channels come and participate and stuff, because it's just good for everybody is how I look at it. Van Shark Tank says, thank you, we'll keep you posted. Awesome. Moving Alaska to Texas. Awesome. Yeah, look, I wanna tell you, Van, it might make sense for you to reach out to me about TCH if you want. I've got a connection. It's not the Houston one, but it might be able to get you somewhere. And also, this is going back to a previous conversation. Van Shark Tank mentioned casually, and I sort of made a big deal of it, but he mentioned casually that he'd love to work at TCH, Texas Card House in Houston. And I have had success getting dealers approved to get hired in Texas Card House properties just by having them pay for video auditions with me that I then showed the people that worked in those properties. So there's a path there for people at TCH where they're receptive to it. The people that trained everybody at TCH, they use True Poker Dealer in order to do their training. The one who was responsible for that has moved on from the company to, I think they got a job at something prestigious somewhere else. But yeah, there's a connection there for sure. Alfie says, that's true. I shoot off an email to see if they need the help. Exactly. Greg says, I'm happy to be here, Mark. Thanks. You're welcome. Masters says, it would be amazing. Let me know. Listen, you put the work in to build up your channel, so this is when it pays off, right? Let me try to figure out something. Also, I have been a guest on Vegas Aces. It's Heather's channel where she's got like 10,000 or so subscribers, and she teaches table games. I teach poker. She teaches the rest of table games and stuff. I could probably get you on hers too if you wanted as well. And she could probably tell you a lot about surveillance in addition. So yeah, maybe shoot me an email if you want, and we can work something out. I'll send the email right here. Yeah, stuff like that's really cool. So that being said, now what? Shout out again. There a couple of people joined the channel today. Definitely appreciate that. Kevin for joined the bonus mix game lesson. EMTEK TV joined the live stream channel. Super appreciate you guys. And yeah, I enjoyed this live stream a lot. You guys kept me here for about an hour longer than I normally stay, so that's an accomplishment. Master says shooting email right now. Excellent. I will get back to you soon. I got a couple meetings lined up starting really soon, but today or tomorrow I'll reach back out to you. So appreciate you being here and appreciate everybody being here. And yeah, this is really fun. You guys are awesome. And I will see you all next Tuesday at the latest. So thanks, guys.